What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video on Russia selling energy in Bitcoin, which is a massive story because it can completely change the entire world's thoughts on Bitcoin, how Bitcoin's going to work, and push forward a Bitcoin standard, especially if energy and oil starts to get priced in Bitcoin. The dollar's in trouble. Before we get into that, if you're not subscribed, make sure to smash that sub button because we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. But we can get right into all of this news, which is Russia considering energy sales to friendly nations in Bitcoin so they could sell oil, natural gas, all of this kinds of stuff. Pricing this stuff in Bitcoin is the beginning to start a massive move that would affect the entire world and Bitcoin and just everything in general. So I don't know how people can't be bullish on Bitcoin here. There's a lot of things going positively for Bitcoin. And if we look at the price chart for Bitcoin, it's doing very well. We saw it's basically following this line up, started a really good rally here, broke out of the wedge, but kind of we hit our head on this top red channel here, came back down into here. If we zoom in a bit, we can see the same kind of story. So these lines for this wedge aren't going to be perfect on these other timelines because I drew them on the hourly or the daily. But if we look at the hourly, we can see it run up, it bounces off this, and just see how it interacts here. If we come down and kind of hover around here and go back up, or just come down and bounce up and trying to get over $45,000, it seems like this could be a difficult zone to get above. But I mean, with all of this news coming out and everything just going so well for Bitcoin, it would not shock me to see at all continued uptrends and continued going up and maybe even going to like 50,000 or possibly this 51K, but 50K is a benchmark, getting to that level and then seeing how we interact there, but having a pretty explosive move up to that level. And if we look at how the US is responding to this, or Janet Yellen and the agencies she's in and works for, they've completely switched what their whole saying was about crypto here. And we have a clip here of her basically talking this in like an interview here, and their tone and everything has completely switched.
Crypto, but in particular, Russia just said that they would accept Bitcoin as a payment for their energy resources. What does that say to you about where we are in the crypto conversation?
Well, crypto is obviously grown by leaps and bounds, and it's
this is where they're completely changing tone.
Role, not really so much in transactions,
right,
but in investment decisions of lots of Americans. And the president just issued a couple of weeks ago an executive order tasking us and other agencies with thinking about the regulation of crypto.
I mean, you're less skeptical about it than in previous. I mean, we've been talking about it together for a long time now, and I think you've had
even he knows
skepticism about
switching up a little bit.
I have a little bit of skepticism because there are, I think, valid concerns around it. Some have to do with financial stability, consumer investor protection, use for illicit transactions and other things.
Right.
On the other hand, there are benefits from crypto, and we recognize that innovation in the payment system can be a healthy thing. We would like to come out eventually with recommendations that will create a regulatory environment in which healthy innovation
and
can.
then finally,
so we get to see right there a complete switch up on what they were saying before, basically coming out much more supportive of Bitcoin and crypto and everything, which makes a lot of sense because the US basically has two choices here, which is the first one, ignore it and try and be the boss and enforce everything in the sanctions and see that we're so great and enforce sanctions and ban Bitcoin and fight Bitcoin. And all that would lead to is sitting on the sideline and watching the collapse of the dollar and not being able to do anything about it. Or you can go in and be supportive of innovation, which historically, that's why the US has stayed on top. We've stayed on top of innovation and continue to push forward this. Maybe even print some fake money and buy Bitcoin, or put Bitcoin in the reserves in the US government stuff so that we can actually have a reserve of Bitcoin and just be have an exposure to this and be able to have probably a lot of it. We can basically print all the money and just buy Bitcoin with it. And another giant story involving oils too is Exxon. The largest U.S. oil and gas company is using excess natural gas to mine Bitcoin. So we can see, even there's an article right here, Exxon mining Bitcoin with excess gas, so with flared gas, which would have been wasted originally. It would have just been burned and wasted. Now they can convert it into real energy, and it's good for the environment, not polluting the environment, convert it into Bitcoin energy and mine Bitcoin with it. So they can even make money with what used to be pure waste and just dumped into the air. So you can see good news starting off here is that they are considering expanding their North Dakota Bitcoin mining pilot program to further reduce volumes of natural gas. It routinely burns off or flares into the atmosphere. So that's good. So they started small, some North Dakota things, saw, wow, this is doing pretty well, and they're expanding on it. So that's good. They like what it's doing. And then this is just kind of a description of what they're doing. You know, enables oil producers to sell gas they accidentally find while drilling for oil, not only bringing more profits to these companies, but also contributing to environment, as such energy source is commonly wasted due to lack of nearby pipelines. So if you if you care about the environment, you should support Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. And even another oil and gas giant, ConocoPhillips, last month spun up similar operations back in North Dakota to sell excess natural gas to Bitcoin mining farm operated by a third party. So we can see the trend here. Exxon, the largest one, doing it. Then the other ones are going to come along. I'm sure Chevron's going to start this, have an announcement that they're doing this, and every single company eventually will be doing this because it's good for them. They make more money. They get to stop wasting oil and natural gas, and then they can meet environmental stuff and look really good from that. So it doesn't have a negative to it. And we're seeing the Bitcoin whales returning, the biggest trend reversal in over a year. Basically, we can see this run up here from the 2020 crash all the way running up to the all-time highs of 60K. Whales left the market, but we still, I mean, we fell down 50% or whatever, went to 29K and rallied all the way back to 69K, basically without the whales, which is kind of crazy. But now we're seeing whales start to tick up and they're buying back in, and obviously the price is reflected in that. But the whales obviously have a ton of money, so when they come back in, prices move pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens. There's not a lot of Bitcoin on exchanges to be sold. There's not this supply that they can come in and try and buy up. If they did try and buy up on the market, it would shoot prices up pretty quickly. So we'll see, you know, what whales are doing. Obviously, this trend is good. It pushes the price up. Good for the price. Good for Bitcoin. People interested in buying it. And one of those whales is UST Luna, which UST is Luna stablecoin that they have bought $500 million worth of Bitcoin within this last week. And they're doing it because they're backing their stable coin with Bitcoin, or somehow partially backing their plans to fully back it, but they're not fully backed yet, or buying all that they want. So they're buying $500 million. I think their plan is to buy $10 billion worth of Bitcoin over a period of time to back their stable coin. So this is pretty good. Just insane stuff. Bitcoin being used to back stable coins, Bitcoin being used to trade on global trade and energy trade. Oil and energy giants are using it, their excess stuff, to mine Bitcoin. There's so much things happening in Bitcoin that it's just the beginning. And I don't know how people can be bearish right now with Russia wanting to price energy in Bitcoin for global trade, Exxon mining Bitcoin with excess energy to bring in more money and save on the environment stuff and make themselves look really good. There's so many oil companies that are just going to start doing this. Exxon's obviously massive. So if the big guys start doing it, you just tend to see the other ones kind of trickle in as well. So we'll see exactly how that happens. The price chart looks great. Everything on Bitcoin looks really good. So if you're bearish, I don't know what you're looking at to try and find that, but everything is going great. That's going to do it for this video. As always, remember to smash the like button and subscribe on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And I'll see you guys in my next video.